For the past 3 weeks, we have been zoomed in to the micro level, focusing on the Austin Metcalf and Carmelo Anthony case. Today, I want to zoom out just a little bit and focus on the macro level. We know that President Trump has just celebrated 100 days in office, and I want to give you a brief introduction to your White House press secretary, Karoline Leavitt, who happens to be the youngest White House press secretary in U.S. history. So then we're going to zoom back in. We're going to hear from a parent, a mother, who sheds light on the Frisco tragedy and hopefully provides comfort to those who are most affected. Okay? So we have a lot to cover in today's show. I'm Tamera. You're watching the Tamera Nealy Show. I would like to welcome back all my returning subscribers. And if you're new here, I would like to let you know I'm happy you're here. Okay? So let's start out with prayer. Lord, I thank you for today. Lord, I thank you just for this opportunity to just be here and be with your people, Lord, and to be with so many people from all around the world, Lord. I just pray that you just continue to help us to be a light in a dark place, Lord. Give us strength, give us comfort, Lord. And I just pray that you help the listeners to use their gifts for your glory, Lord, because you have given each and every single one of them gifts, passions, callings that can be used to better other people's lives. And so, Lord, I pray that you give us a servant's heart today, Lord. Help us to serve one another in love. We need more of that. So I thank you for everything. I thank you for who you are. You are amazing, and I love you. In Jesus' name, amen. Before we get started, and before we go to the first segment of the show, I want to say something to you that I've been thinking about. Don't forget to give the people close to you love, okay? Because at the end of the day, life is about relationships. It's about people. It's about sharing the gospel. It's about, really serving other people. That's what this is all about. And so I don't want you to forget the real reason that all of this is happening, right? The real reason this show happens every single week is to use my gifts for the glory of God, okay? I don't want you to forget what this is all about. This is about people. This is about relationships. The relationships that you have with money, the relationship you have with your community, the relationship you have with yourself, the relationship you have with others, and ultimately the relationship you have with God. It all has to do with relationships. I just felt that in my spirit to mention that. Let's go ahead and go to the first segment of this show. All right, y'all. So this is Karoline Leavitt. I have been watching her White House press briefings for the past couple weeks, really focusing in on it. When I've had some free time, I've been tuning in. And let me tell you something about her. She's really sweet. And I love her approach to her approach to being the White House press secretary. I notice how kind she is. She takes her job seriously, but she also has this kind of lighthearted nature about her. She's giving the new media, which is influencers, an opportunity to have their voices heard in the White House, which is so powerful because we have platforms like YouTube. We've got platforms like TikTok and different things where independent voices are being given the opportunity to speak about what matters, which is so incredible. It's so new. And I'm so glad that she's using her Gen Z voice, because she's a Gen Zer. I'm also Gen Z, to make a difference. Gen Z is known for our ability to communicate and express our emotions, right? Gen Z is known for wanting to be involved in activism, wanting to be involved in this, involved in that. And sometimes that's a good thing, and sometimes it's kind of like, okay, you're doing a little bit too much, okay? But in this case, it is a great thing because you get to see somebody like Karoline Leavitt. I want to give a brief introduction to her. I wrote down some notes, okay, so bear with me. Karoline Leavitt studied politics and communications while she was in school. She interned in the White House of Presidential Correspondence, was an assistant White House press secretary in 2020. She ran for office. She's a wife and a mother. She's now the youngest White House press secretary in U.S. history. Okay, so that is a very brief introduction, but I just want you to hear how she interacts and just get to know Karoline Leavitt a little bit, okay? So here we go.
Much smarter than she believes.
I want to mention she's also gorgeous, absolutely beautiful, 27 years old. It's just amazing and gives me so much hope for the future that, I mean, I'm 23 right now. So who knows, okay? Who knows?
That they are, and that's why they reelected President Trump. Oh, go ahead.
Hi, Caroline. So, as the youngest press secretary in history who is a wife and a mom, you've become widely popular with America First Patriots. As an 18-year-old, I can say you're definitely an inspiration to Gen Z. What has been the biggest highlight for you in these first 100 historic days?
Thank you for asking that and saying that, Bo. I am Gen Z. I think I heard the term zillennial because I'm right on the cusp of millennial and Gen Z. Jack is cringing at that. But there's been so many highlights. Just being here every day is such a blessing and an honor. And I'll share a quick story to that point. You know, the president, I'm only here because the president believed in me and uplifted me and so many others who are working so hard across this administration. This administration is filled with young, vibrant people who come to work every day hungry and eager to help accomplish the president's goals. And I think we're seeing a real reawakening amongst young people across the country. The president spoke directly to.
It's amazing because you've seen that Gen Z voted for President Trump. It voted Republican like never before. Okay, you see that Gen Z has voted Republican like never before. And so Gen Z, I think, is going to be defined as a conservative generation. We've gone through so much. And also, we've gone through so little, right? We've had, I mean, for the most part, our lives have been pretty easy, pretty, you know, very American. And then, boom, 2020 happens. And our lives are completely changed. When 2020 happened, I was a senior in college. Not a senior in college. I was a senior in high school. And I remember when my school was either in the process of announcing that school was going to be canceled for the rest of the year, or they had already canceled it. I don't remember exactly, but I remember sitting in a on-cue parking lot. I'll never forget it. I remember it like it was yesterday. And I was sitting in the on-cue parking lot and I was in my car crying. And I felt like my life, like I didn't get a fair shot and like my life was like over. Because I was the senior class historian, which means that I was responsible for putting together the class slideshow. I did a lot of things in leadership. And I was debate team captain that year. I had all these things happening. You know, I worked all of high school being on the honor roll. And next thing you know, they say, you know what, because of this virus, because of COVID-19, school is canceled. Sorry, you won't have a graduation. Watch it on YouTube. And I was so upset and I was so like, seriously? You know, like, seriously, you're canceling my graduation. You want me to watch a YouTube slideshow for my graduation? You got me messed up. Okay? And so I was pretty upset. And that's eventually, you know, George Floyd happened, the craziness happened. I went to a George Floyd protest and I said, you know what? This is not what I stand for. I thought I was coming out here to say that, you know, I am against what happened to George Floyd. I felt like, you know, it was sad seeing his, you know, I didn't like seeing the officer's knee on his neck. I went out there and saw that those people were about defunding the police, saying all cops were bastards, saying they hate America, this and that. And I said, that's not me. I don't hate America. I love this country. This country has given me great opportunities. And I eventually started speaking out as a conservative. And I'm sure that so many Gen Zers have that exact, very similar stories. So I just wanted to mention that because Gen Z is going to be one of those Gen Z will be one of the generations that goes down in history as being one of the most conservative generations in American history. I truly believe it.
People during his campaign, inspiring confidence in them and restoring hope in the American dream, basic common sense.
What she's doing is she's setting this up. She's basically explaining that President Trump is the reason why she got this opportunity, because he believes in Gen Z. He believes in the younger generation, is what she's saying here. I just wanted to give a quick recap because I just went off on I just talked to you for a couple minutes. So I'm like, let's get back on it.
Values of faith and family and freedom that truly do resonate with young people. The American dream of home ownership, of being able to afford to raise a family and to have children. It's a beautiful thing, and I think the president openly talking about it has inspired so many young minds and opened up so many young hearts. And I'm just so honored to be in this role. The president, he's wrote about it in his books and he's talked about it himself. When he was in his 20s, he was building buildings in Manhattan. So certainly he believes in the strength and the ability of young Americans across the country, like yourself, here at the White House at just 18 years old. Thanks for being here. Into the back row.
I just wanted to give you a brief introduction to Karoline Leavitt. But you can see that this woman is super sweet. We're going to be covering her press briefings in the future because I want to keep you guys updated on not only the micro level of what's going on with individuals, what's going on with people, but also what's happening in our country and what's happening around the world. Because I'm getting emails from you from around the world. Somebody emailed me from Europe just the other day saying that they've been watching the show. So there are a lot of things happening in the world, and I want to keep you updated. I want to share this clip with you titled President Trump, the First 100 Days, the interview in the Oval Office. We're going to watch this, then we're going to go to the White House press secretary briefing that happened today, okay? So here's the question that is asked to President Trump, and here's his response.
We have a lot of ground to cover. Yeah, I would really say that the border is so important. You know,
and we'll get there. Immigration, huge, and we're going to get there. But I want to start with the economy, the number one issue for so many people, for just about everybody. It's one of the main reasons that you're back in this office. And now we have this trade war with China that Moody's and other analysts say is going to cost American families thousands of more dollars per year. And there is a lot of concern out there. People are worried, even some people who voted for you saying, I didn't sign up for this. So how do you answer those concerns?
Well, they did sign up for it, actually, and this is what I campaigned on. I said that we've been abused by other countries at levels that nobody's ever seen before. We were losing $3 to $5 billion a day on trade. We were losing $1.5 trillion to $2 trillion a year, not sustainable. They were taking advantage of us like they've never. I could have left it that way, and at some point there would have been an implosion like nobody's ever seen. But I said, no, we have to fix it. I've wanted to do this for many years. You know, I had the best economy during my first term. We had a tremendous economy, tremendous success. And we did tremendous numbers of tariffs on, we took in a lot of money from tariffs, China in particular, hundreds of billions of dollars in tariffs. We had no inflation, as you know. We had an incredible economy. We're given credit for a great economy. But I said, we have to fix this, otherwise it's just not self-sustaining.
Well, one of the things you ran on was you said you'd bring prices down.
Okay. So I wanted to play that first. Let's go to the press briefing that happened today. Karoline Leavitt and Stephen Miller briefed members of the media today on this topic, okay? And so I want you to hear what they laid out. I'm not going to be given a long explanation of what my take is on this yet. I will be sharing that in a later video. Right now, I just want to lay down the foundation of this is what the White House is doing, and this is their take. Okay, so this is the leaders of our country. This is where they're standing on the issue, and let's hear their take first. Okay.
Trump in every area of conflict around the globe has been fighting to restore peace, security, stability, harmony. So he inherited an economic catastrophe, a border catastrophe, a public safety catastrophe, and a cultural catastrophe. And in every case, he has reversed those catastrophes and brought America into the new golden age. So I thank you for your time, and I look forward to any questions you have.
Awesome. Thank you, Stephen. And as always, we'll start with our new media seat today. Chris Bedford from the Blaze Media. Why don't you kick us off?
Thank you very much. Stephen, what is the end goal of the China tariffs right now? Is the idea to open up the Chinese markets through a deal to a better market for exporting American goods to China, or is it a reconfiguration of global trade in a way that isolates China from free countries?
Go. So China is a unique situation. Obviously, the president has talked at length about what happened to us economically since China's entrance into the World Trade Organization and the trillions and trillions of dollars of trade deficits that we've racked up with China over the period of that time, and what that's meant for our national security, what that's meant for our economic security, what that's meant for our supply chains. Obviously, right now, the Secretary of the Treasury is in the process of developing a plan that will answer the questions that you're talking about, but the president's goals have been very clear on these points, which is that he is not going to allow China to continue to steal our intellectual property, to continue to illegally dump and subsidize their goods in our markets, to manipulate their currency, to rack up an unsustainable trade deficit. We need to have a trade relationship with China that does not do harm to our nation's economic and national security. And that has to be the guidepost of any objective. At the same time, tariffs will bring significant revenue into this country that will allow us to pursue our dramatic plan of tax cuts and reforms.
Awesome. Great. Bloomberg, go ahead.
Okay. So I wanted to let you listen to that. Some of you may know I posted it into the community tab that I did I sat in on one of my friend Robin, your tax therapist show, where she is going to be covering this. She has 30 years of experience being a tax professional. And so some of you may know I studied economics in college. That was my choice of study. And then I minored in communications. So I'm looking forward to getting into this. Right now, I'm laying the foundation for you. I want to hear your thoughts in the comment section. Let me know, what do you think about this tariff situation? What do you think about President Trump's first 100 days in office? I want to know your thoughts on this, okay? All right, y'all. So as I said at the beginning of this show, we were going to zoom out, and now it's time to zoom back in. I want to share a clip from an interview I did with a lady named Casey Gibbons. Her husband and her are going to a church that I used to go to when I was a kid. And so we happened to run into each other, and we got to talking and everything. And she has this sweet, nurturing spirit about her. And she happens to know about what's been going on with Austin Metcalf and the Carmelo Anthony tragedy. And I asked her to come on the show and kind of shed light and give hope to what seems and what is a dark situation that so many people are affected by. I asked her, what would she say to the teenagers who are affected by this tragedy? We've been talking about Gen Z today. We've been talking about Karoline Leavitt. We've been talking about just, different experiences that I myself have had, and I know so many people have had in Gen Z. And the class of 2025, the Frisco class of 2025, they're also a part of Gen Z. And that tragedy, the Frisco tragedy, will affect them for probably, some years. They will think back on this tragedy. And so I wanted to ask her, what can she say to those young people who are going through this situation? Because at the end of the day, they are the leaders of today. If you want to hear more about Casey and what she's doing and what her family is doing, what her husband is doing, shout out to Pastor Gibbons. I remember you, okay? If you want to hear more about Casey and what she's got going on, check her out on Instagram at mothergood.us, at mothergood.us, okay? So thank you, Casey, for coming on the Tamera Nealy Show. Without further ado, let's share this clip of Casey. What would you say to the teenagers dealing with this? Because those are the main students affected, are the students in their high schools. Do you see what I mean? And so I want to know, what would you say to them in this time where they're feeling they're feeling a lot of emotions. I've spoken with some of them. So I know that they're feeling the weight of these emotions, and they may not know how to express it. They may not know what to say. And some of them were not there, but they're still very much so affected. What would you say to those students?
I would say to not be afraid
Mm-hmm.
and to not turn to things that would make things worse in the long run, such as an addiction to something, or to drop out of school, or to isolate yourself and to become depressed, or to become more into social media and just bombarded with it and consumed with it. I would say, young people, you need to do what is healthy and right and best so that you can handle the situation. Well, what would that even mean? One would just be like, hey, God has not given me a spirit of fear, but
Amen.
of power, love, and a sound mind. So I'm going to claim that power that was given to me by the cross. I'm going to demonstrate that love by the love that was given me by Jesus. And I'm going to have a sound mind. I'm not going to let fear and anxiety and the temptations of panic, or am I safe in my school, and how would I protect myself, and what if that had been me, and now I don't want to play sports, or I'm going to drop out of the team, or I don't, all these things can just start going crazy. I would say handle it in a healthy way. Get plugged into your youth group, talk to a mentor, work it out with your parents, your grandparents, an auntie or uncle, someone that you trust that you know will give you sound advice. This is not the time to just collapse. This is not the time, young people, to become fearful and afraid. That's exactly what the enemy wants you to do. But this is the time to say, as a 16-year-old, I will stand up and I will pray today at my lunch. As a 14-year-old, I'm actually going to start a Bible club so that we have a safe place to talk about these things. As an 18-year-old athlete, my senior year, I'm going to be a voice for God on the field and on the court, or however they could
Mm-hmm.
demonstrate that. Support local schools the local schools that have those clubs that are Christian clubs in your school, or start one.
Mm-hmm.
Support your youth group. Get your youth group involved. Get your youth pastor involved. Don't shrink back. Do not become fearful. Do not lead yourself into these all these other unhealthy habits and things that would make it worse. But in the long haul, just think, what is my place as a child of God, empowered by the Holy Spirit to be a voice of compassion, of love, of strength, of a sound mind, of power. And this is your moment.
So I want to ask you because I know you have a heart for mothers, and I mean, you're doing such a great job. You have this nurturing spirit about you. And there are so many women watching this video who want to be mothers, or maybe they are mothers, or maybe they're soon to be mothers. Because my friend is even about to be a mother later this year. And so, what advice would you give to those women?
Do you mean just in regards to motherhood in general, or
Just
to
the
the
motherhood in general.
Oh my goodness,
Yeah.
so many things. I would just say you're about to embark on the most amazing adventure. And as always, adventures have highs and lows, and you have to prepare for those adventures. But when you look in hindsight, you'll say, I'm so glad I went on this adventure. I'm so glad I experienced this. I'm so glad that I learned from this and I grew in this and I saw things I would never see. I felt things I would never feel. And that's because God has given you a child. I did not have a heart for that. I honestly was more career driven. I thought everything was going to be out there. There are times that I still struggled with it, even when I had the children, be like, get me out of here. This is hard work. This is toddlers and babies and preschoolers and homeschooling. And I'm tired, or my body's changed. Don't let those things take your adventure. I would just say that God's word is always true. And he says they are a gift. Now, gifts might mean something different to you now, but as you mature, you realize that God's gifts are the best gifts. My 6 children are the best gifts that I could have ever had, when I thought that maybe something else out there in the world was better than those gifts. Whatever he's called you to do is the best for you in your situation. But when it comes time to have that child, and God is saying it's time to be a mother, I would say embrace the adventure, be 100% in. You may still have to work. You may still have to run your home. Yes, you're still a wife, or you're leading in your community and you have other responsibilities, but be wholehearted with that child in the best way that you can, whether it's nurturing or giving them wisdom or providing daily needs or being close to their heart. Shepherd that heart. You are raising up the next generation of world leaders, and I can't think of anything that would be more important of an impact than you mothering that child.
All right, y'all. So we have covered a lot on today's show. I want to thank you for supporting the Tamera Nealy Show. I forget to say this, but please be sure to subscribe. Make sure you're subscribed. Hit that notification bell and like the video. Also, please join the conversation below. All right? This is a community, so that means you can be an active member. As you know, in one of the previous videos, I told y'all I gave y'all co-host activation. Okay? So use that activation to let your voice be heard in the comment section. I love you guys. Thank you for joining the Tamera Nealy Show, and you'll hear from me soon, okay?